Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories.
New York City gets ready to ring in the new year. How city officials plan to keep things running smoothly on the biggest night of the year.
An infamous China-backed hacking group adds a key U.S. agency to its list of victims in a major cyber breach.
South Korea's worst aviation disaster in decades claims 179 lives. U.S. investigators are now assisting in the probe into the fiery crash at Muan Airport.
Russia and Ukraine conduct a prisoners swap ahead of the new year, releasing over 300 captives from both sides as the U.S. announces additional aid to Ukraine.
President-elect Trump endorses House Speaker Mike Johnson to retain his gavel, but some conservative lawmakers aren't convinced he's the right person for the job. Luis Martinez on Capitol Hill.
A new year means new resolutions, especially after all that holiday spending. It's time to add to your savings. We have tips on how to reevaluate your budget for 2025.
This is NTD Good Morning, live from our global headquarters in New York City. Here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
And thank you for tuning in to NTD this morning.
Welcome also for me. Today is Tuesday, December 31st. And topping this morning's news, of course, for some, the new year has already arrived, like the residents of New Zealand.
They just celebrated the start of 2025 with fireworks from the Sky Tower in Auckland.
Yeah, look at that. That just gets you even more excited for tonight.
You know, it's an interesting question to ponder. When does New Year actually start, right? For example, in New Zealand, it already started, while here in New York, we're still waiting for the celebrations.
Exactly. Well, I keep it simple. I'll just wait until hits 0 on our clock.
Here's a fun fact for you, though.
Okay.
The first country in the world to actually start New Year's is actually an island in the Pacific Ocean. It's so-called Christmas Island, just for your information.
I love that. Christmas Island, too. All right, well, their showdown is already over. Here in New York, we're gearing up for New Year's Eve as well.
Let's take a look at how the city is preparing for the biggest night of the year.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Times Square got a special preview of the big moment when organizers tested the iconic crystal ball on Monday. Standing on an outdoor platform high above the square, organizers of the celebration briefly illuminated the nearly 12,000-pound New Year's Eve crystal ball. The dropping of the ball has been a New Year's Eve staple in Times Square for the last 120 years. According to Times Square Alliance, this ball is illuminated by over 30,000 energy-efficient LEDs and is capable of displaying more than 16 million colors. With roughly 1 million people expected to celebrate the New Year in New York, police and city authorities are on full alert.
Hundreds of thousands of people come from all across the globe to celebrate and bring in the new year. They see the main stage of the ball actually dropping. What they don't realize is how much goes on behind the scene to ensure that people are safe. This is the crossroads of the entire planet right here in New York City.
Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said Monday there are no specific credible threats to the Times Square celebration, but police will stay alert in light of the ongoing war in Gaza.
However, we have been operating in a heightened threat environment since October 7th, and we remain vigilant.
Earlier this month, a Christmas market in Germany was attacked and several people were killed. The NYPD has implemented various security measures, including deploying both plainclothes and uniformed officers, emergency service units, canine units, and drone teams.
We're going to make sure we have the omnipresence of the blue uniform, would always bring that level of security, but there are many officers that have plainclothes assignments to give the element of surprise. And it would include officers from Patrol Service Bureau, the Transit Bureau, the Intelligence and Counterintelligence Bureau, and Special Operation Division.
Dedicated teams will seal off or remove all manholes, mailboxes, and vending machines within a so-called frozen zone. Several roads will also be blocked off. As Ryan Seacrest gears up to host Dick Clark's iconic New Year's Rockin' Eve, NYC remains shrouded by clouds. Forecasters are telling revelers heading to Times Square to be prepared for intermittent showers and breezy winds. It will be much warmer than usual, though, with temperatures around 50 degrees.
Switching gears now, another major cyber breach hits a key U.S. agency. The Treasury Department says Chinese state-sponsored hackers accessed employee workstations.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on what was stolen and how the theft was carried out.
Chinese hackers have struck again, this time targeting the Treasury Department. The department confirmed the breach in a letter to lawmakers, calling it a major incident. According to the report, hackers exploited vulnerabilities in a third-party software provider called Beyond Trust. By gaining access to a critical security key, the attackers remotely accessed certain Treasury workstations and stole unclassified documents. The breach occurred on December 8th, and the compromised service has since been taken offline. While the number of affected workstations and the type of stolen documents remain unclear, the Treasury insists there's no evidence the hackers still have access. The FBI and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency are investigating. This breach is the latest in a series of cyber attacks by China's state-backed Salt Typhoon hacking group. The group has been tied to wide-ranging espionage campaigns, including targeting telecom giants like Verizon and AT&T. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has urged those in senior government or political positions to immediately stop using regular phone calls and text messages, and to assume such traditional mobile networks are compromised. The agency is advising them to use only end-to-end encrypted communications. The hacking group has already successfully targeted now Vice President-elect J.D. Vance and now President-elect Donald Trump, as well as Vice President Kamala Harris. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
In a historic turn, a South Korean court has approved an arrest warrant against President Yoon Suk-yeol. The president was swiftly impeached and suspended from power after he issued a short-lived martial law decree earlier this month. He's facing charges of abuse and authority and orchestrating a rebellion. Yoon's martial law decree led to public protests and mass resignations from his cabinet.
President Yoon's lawyer reacted to the warrant today, calling it invalid. He said his client's martial law declaration did not constitute insurrection. Many supporters attended a rally for Yoon today after the arrest warrant was approved.
South Korea says U.S. investigators have joined an on-site probe into Sunday's fatal plane disaster.
The plane crashed into a wall at Muan Airport, killing 179 people. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the latest.
South Korea says one member from the FAA, 3 experts from the National Transportation Safety Board, and 4 representatives from Boeing have joined South Korean officials. The closure of Muan Airport runway has also been extended to January 7th to be reassessed later. The Boeing 737-800 plane, operated by South Korean budget airline Jeju Air, aborted its first landing attempt for reasons that remain unclear. During its second landing attempt, it received a bird strike warning from the ground control center before the pilot issued a distress signal. The plane landed without its front landing gear deployed, overshooting the runway. It slammed into a concrete fence and burst into a fireball. John Cox, CEO of Safety Operating Systems, described the evidence as really unusual and very tragic, and questioned the presence of a concrete fence near the runway.
Probably what struck me the most about it was why that concrete berm was there, because that airplane could have stopped. People could have gotten off of it if they hadn't hit that concrete berm. Why was it there?
Cox also noted that the landing gear was not deployed and the wing wasn't configured for landing,
which means it was still set up for high-speed flight. All of that resulted in the airplane approaching the runway at a much higher speed than normal. That is not something a pilot would do if they had other alternatives.
Transportation Minister Park Sang-woo said Tuesday that 174 victims of the 179 people killed in the crash have been identified.
I'm sorry, but there are 5 people who have not been identified yet. They need more precise testing for results, and I've heard it is due to various reasons.
Sunday's crash was the country's worst aviation disaster in decades. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the families who lost the loved ones in that devastating crash. Now, the country is canceling nationwide New Year's Eve celebrations as a week of national mourning begins.
We now turn to the Russia-Ukraine war, where the two countries conducted a prisoner swap coordinated by United Arab Emirates and other partners.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced the release of 189 Ukrainian captives, while Russia's defense ministry reported that both sides released 150 prisoners of war. Here are the details.
This was the moment Vasyl Nisharet reunited with his wife and 5-year-old daughter on Monday, after Ukraine and Russia carried out a new prisoners of war exchange. "I'm serving and will continue to serve our country," said the Ukrainian border guard who was captured by Russian troops at the Chernobyl nuclear power station. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said 189 POWs were brought home, including soldiers, sergeants, and officers from different frontline areas. He said it also included 2 Ukrainian civilians who were captured by Russian troops at the southern port of Mariupol in 2022. Zelensky also thanked the United Arab Emirates and other partners for facilitating the swap. Meanwhile, Russian soldiers were seen getting on a bus and speaking with Russia's Human Rights Commissioner, Tatiana Moskalkova, in a video posted on her Telegram channel. The Russian Defense Ministry said 150 Russian servicemen were returning home. There was no immediate explanation for why more Ukrainians were listed as released than Russians. Moscow added that Russian captives had been released on Belarusian territory and would be transferred to Russia.
The U.S. announces nearly $6 billion in additional military and budget assistance for Ukraine as President Biden uses his final weeks in office to boost aid to Kyiv.
The announcement includes $3.4 billion of direct budget aid, $1.2 billion in military aid drawn from U.S. stockpiles, and $1.2 billion Ukraine security assistance package.
Congress has approved $175 billion in total assistance for Ukraine since Russia's invasion nearly 3 years ago. That's according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget.
The top prosecutor leading the January 6th investigation has announced his resignation. What Trump's re-entry into the White House could mean for those charged and convicted. That and more after the break.
Is deep-sea fish oil really healthy?
Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3.
Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals,
especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9.
It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health.
Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
As the universe nears the end of its cycle of creation and destruction, the merciful King of Kings descends to save it, confronting the chaos sown by the malformed Red Dragon. Earth becomes the ultimate battleground. Humanity faces a defining choice. Our eternal fate hangs in the balance during this pivotal moment of cosmic shift.
painting that has true beauty. I imagine it's like a door. The artist holds the key to open the door and bring people to a purer world. A world where people are more compassionate.
Welcome back. President-elect Trump just threw his support behind the H-1B visa, saying many of his properties employ H-1B workers. With that, he's weighing in on a debate that's been going on for several days.
And Elon Musk sparked the discussion when he said the reason there are so many companies making America strong is because of the H-1B program.
So on that topic, we're bringing in Mike Leon for his take on this. He is our NTD News contributor and the host of the Can We Please Talk podcast. Good morning, Mike. First of all, what is the H-1B just roughly, and how do businesses actually use it?
Yeah, Evelyn, good morning, first and foremost. So H-1B visa program, and this I'm something very unfamiliar with because technology is a field that uses a lot of H-1B visas as companies that I've been at, because we hire engineers and we bring them in from other countries. It's an arduous process, first and foremost, because the company has to, fill out an application. They have to pay a registration fee. The employer has to let other employees at the company know, especially US-based companies, that they're going to be hiring somebody that is going to be on an H-1B visa, but it's for a technical skill set, right? So at the companies I've worked at in product and technology, for example, I've been the product manager and I'll be paired with the H-1B visa employee who will be the engineer, who will actually be building the actual product that we're going to be working on. So a product that is like the NTD app, for example, right? So you get a lot of engineering talent. And the reason why Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been so vocal about the H-1B visa program is because their companies have leveraged this, especially in biotechnology, especially with SpaceX and Tesla. And that's why Elon Musk was so vocal about this is something that will continue to grow America's economy, because these workers have a specialized skill set that some Americans just don't have yet.
Right. And interestingly enough, Trump used to criticize this visa. He argued that there are abuses, and he did limit it also in his last term that he had as president. What do you think changed his mind this time?
Well, I think there's a couple things. First off, Elon continues to donate, obviously, as we know he has some influence here. But I also think that Donald Trump mentioned about some of his properties having H-1B visa employees. And, I live near the Trump Doral golf course here, and obviously Mar-a-Lago is not too far away from where I am. And he's right about that. There are a bunch of H-1B visas that are on the properties that had, security and technologies and some of the fields that I mentioned before. So he is familiar with the program. But remember, some of the numbers, especially as he was exiting on the H-1B visa front, went down significantly during his administration because of COVID-19, right? Because we couldn't bring as many people into the country. So I think, I don't know if he's done a 180, let's say he's done a 90, Evelyn, on this issue. But I think also he's realizing that there are a lot of things that this administration wants to accomplish, that if they're going to get on board and be able to do things from a technological standpoint with Elon Musk in his ear, the only way to do this is through this program. And again, like I said, it's not the easiest of process to bring H-1B foreign workers here, but it is a process, and it's something that's fully vetted, and these workers do add to the economy.
So since we have limited time left, with so much debate going on and all these people that have weighed in, what could it mean in terms of changes for this policy, and who actually gets to decide this anyways, a Congress?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So it is Congress that gets to decide this program, but it's also the federal government working in conjunction with some of these businesses, because the H-1B visa program, and the reason why Elon Musk has talked about expanding it, is because there are some hurdles, right? There's a lot of denials that go through this. During the Trump administration, I think 24% of folks got denied from this program because of the process. Like I mentioned, you have to fill out the application. There's a registration fee. The company does have to explain why they are hiring this worker, and then how it won't affect the US based workers that could potentially apply for a similar role. So there's a bunch in terms of why Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy have been so vocal about this, because it's a specialized skill set, specifically in their two industries that they were in, technology and medicine, as to why they felt workers were more qualified than US based workers. Just look at the COVID pandemic, when we hired over 3,300 H-1B visa employees based on science and technology and things that they could do in that nature. So a lot to watch that's going to be happening here. I don't know if this will make the top of the list of the first 100 days in President Trump when he gets into office, Evelyn, but a lot of people are going to be focused on this, especially because of the Twitter backlash from Elon and Vivek about it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mike Leon, and Happy New Year, of course, to you and your family.
Thank you, Evelyn. Happy New Year to everybody at NTD.
And Trump has endorsed House Speaker Mike Johnson to retain his gavel in the incoming Congress. Despite Trump's support, Johnson faces an uphill re-election battle. Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on this story.
With less than 4 days until the swearing in of the new Congress and the election of a new Speaker of the House, President-elect Donald Trump threw his weight behind Mike Johnson on a Truth Social post. President-elect Donald Trump said that Speaker Johnson is a good, hardworking, religious man. He will do the right thing, and we will continue to win. Mike has my complete and total endorsement. Speaker Johnson instantly reposted Trump's endorsement, saying, "Thank you, President Trump. I am honored and humbled by your support as always. Together, we will quickly deliver on your America First agenda and usher in the new golden age of America." But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who will have a 220-seat majority on January 3rd, faces opposition from his right flank. 38 Republicans voted against President Trump's and Speaker Johnson's proposal to fund government through fiscal year 2025, and 34 of them voted against the final continuing resolution that was approved by Congress.
The fact is that these folks are playing with fire, and if they think they're somehow going to get a more conservative speaker, they're kidding themselves.
Despite Congressman Mike Lawler's warnings, Congressman Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, posted on social media earlier this Monday saying that on January 3rd, 2025, I won't be voting for Mike Johnson. I hope my colleagues will join me because history will not give America another do-over. Speaker Mike Johnson no longer counts with the support of House Democrats to counter his opposition from conservatives.
Speaker Johnson and the Republicans across our government are doing is demonstrating that the incoming chaos Congress and this administration is going to be of, by, and for the billionaires and corporations.
Unfortunately, Speaker Johnson really has no free will of his own. He is totally dependent on others. He's got the gavel, that's right, at the Capitol, but the real power is with those who have the big hammer over him. And with Trump's bluster and Elon Musk's billions, sometimes it's difficult to tell who's the chief and who's the sidekick.
Even as Speaker of the House Mike Johnson retains his gavel, his job will become harder after January 3rd, when Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and Congressman Mike Waltz are expected to leave the House of Representatives to join the Trump administration, reducing the House Republican majority in the lower chamber of Congress. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Elon Musk also endorsed House Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday, just days before lawmakers will put the matter to a vote.
Musk's support for Johnson came several hours after Trump gave the speaker his complete and total endorsement.
Now, Washington, D.C.'s top prosecutor, who led the investigation into the January 6th Capitol breach, has announced his resignation.
U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves said in a press release he will step down on January 16th, just days before President-elect Trump returns to the White House.
Graves thanks President Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland, saying that serving in this role had been an opportunity of a lifetime.
Under Graves' watch, the office charged more than 1,500 defendants in connection with January 6th.
Of these, nearly 1,000 have pleaded guilty.
And Trump says he will offer pardons to some of the defendants. The president-elect has not yet announced his pick for a Graves replacement.
And what's left of President-elect Trump's classified documents case has been handed off to the U.S. Attorney's Office in southern Florida. That's according to court documents.
Special counsel Jack Smith dropped the charges against Trump after he won the presidency in November.
However, 2 other defendants in the case still face obstruction charges. Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, who are employees of Trump, have pleaded not guilty.
Now, Smith's team has officially withdrawn its case against the 2 men. Smith also says he's working to complete a final report on the investigation.
And columnist Jean Carroll, who sued President-elect Trump for sexual abuse and defamation, got another victory yesterday.
An appeals court declined to grant Trump a new trial. Our legal correspondent Arlene Richards has the details.
A New York federal appeals court on Monday refused to grant President-elect Trump a new trial. Trump's attorneys appealed a $5 million jury verdict that found Trump liable for sexually abusing magazine columnist Jean Carroll and then defaming her. His legal team had argued that the trial judge made a number of errors in its rulings. But the 3-judge panel ruled that the claimed errors didn't substantially affect Trump's rights. Carroll first sued Trump in 2019, but the case was delayed due to his presidency. She filed a second action against Trump in 2022 after the state of New York passed the Adult Survivors Act. The act granted sexually abused adults a 1-year window to sue their abusers. Carroll claimed Trump raped her in a Manhattan department store dressing room in the 1990s, and then defamed her when he denied the claim in 2022. After a 9-day trial, the jury decided that Trump did not rape Carroll, but that he did sexually abuse her. Trump's attorneys claim the trial judge erroneously allowed 2 witnesses to testify that Trump sexually assaulted them, and also allowed a 2005 Access Hollywood recording in which Trump discussed groping women. But the appeals panel found that the law permits evidence of past abuses. Therefore, they ruled that the trial judge did not make a mistake. Trump spokesperson Stephen Chung in a statement said they will appeal the ruling. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
Coming up, we take a look at former President Jimmy Carter's legacy and how some of the issues he faced as president resemble those we face today.
我们师傅讲过，过去武术的身法，你上阵了，你要是身法你保持好了，你就失去了生命。
Are today's mainstream martial arts not traditional martial arts?
现在有些人他学说传统武术，他尤其是西方人，他不懂。为什么我们要举行大赛呢？因为新党人他就是要提倡传统武术，复兴中华5000年的传统文化。传统武术，真正的传统武术是讲武德的。我相信有一点。 就是守住武德，就有人教。
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, I have an important message about security. Write down the number on your screen so you can call when I finish. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. This is a lock for your life insurance, a rate lock that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. But be careful. Many policies you see do not have one. But you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. Call this number to learn more. This plan was designed with a rate lock for people on a fixed income who want life insurance that fits their budget and is simple to get. Coverage options start at $9.95 a month, less than 35 cents a day. Act now, and your rate will be locked in for life. It will never increase, guaranteed. This is lifelong coverage that can never be canceled as long as you pay your premiums, guaranteed. And your acceptance is guaranteed, with no health questions. You cannot be turned down because of your health. Call for your information kit and read about this rate lock for yourself. You'll also get a free beneficiary planner. Both are free with no obligation. Don't miss out. Call for information, then decide. Read about the 30-day 100% money-back guarantee. Don't wait. Call this number now.
Call now and you'll also get this free beneficiary planner. Use this valuable guide to record important information and your final wishes, and it's yours free just for calling. So don't wait. Call 1-800-357-4821 for your free information. That's 1-800-357-4821. There's no risk or obligation. That number again is 1-800-357-4821. That's 1-800-357-4821. 1-800-357-4821. Call now.
Welcome back. Former President Jimmy Carter is expected to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol while memorial services go ahead.
Congressional leaders said yesterday they will ask the House and Senate to pass resolutions approving the arrangement, though these are usually a formality.
Visitors will be able to pay their respects at the Capitol Rotunda, though increased security since 2021 will add a layer of challenge.
The ceremonies for Carter's funeral will begin on January 4th, and he will be buried in Plains, Georgia on January 9th.
The former president's family will travel to Maranatha Baptist Church, which Carter used to attend, for a private funeral service before the burial.
And joining us now live is Nicholas Giordano, a professor of political science at Suffolk Community College, to discuss Jimmy Carter's legacy. Good morning to you, Nicholas. So in your view, what's Carter's biggest achievement?
I think Carter's life story is actually his biggest achievement because he came from humble beginnings. He wasn't part of any political aristocracy. He was a peanut farmer from Plains, Georgia, worked hard, dedicated his life to service, and was able to become the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world. And it shows you that in the United States, we are the land of opportunity, where there's nothing that holds an individual back. And I think that Jimmy Carter's life represents American exceptionalism, that America is the place for hope and opportunity to thrive and succeed. As long as you're willing to persevere, put in the hard work, and sacrifice, you could achieve anything here in the United States. Obviously, his presidency was marred by turbulent times. He had the malaise over the country, a poor economy. But just because he might not have been a successful president doesn't mean that his life's work wasn't a success.
And let's go into a bit more detail about his policies, specifically foreign policy and towards China. Your thoughts on that?
When you look at Jimmy Carter and his policies towards China, he was someone that followed Nixon, and he allowed the trade to go forward with China. He didn't go against the communist regime the way we would want an American president to do, to stand up for human rights. And I think that Jimmy Carter could have been a lot stronger post-presidency. He was a warrior for human rights around the world. However, when it came to China, he took a hands-off approach and didn't talk about the communist abuses of power that existed within China.
And let's talk a bit more about policy. How significant were the Camp David Accords? How are they viewed today?
I think the Camp David Accords showed something that was really important. When Egypt made the peace with Israel, when it was negotiated under Jimmy Carter, it showed that peace in the Middle East is possible, albeit it is difficult, but it is possible. And I think that the Camp David Accords did lay the groundwork for the Abraham Accords 40 years later. And I think that that's probably the biggest impact that he had when it comes to foreign policy. That's certainly a success that he had, as opposed to the failures like the 1979 Iranian hostage crisis.
And, you know, his impact didn't just stop with his presidency. Can you tell us about his work after his presidency?
Sure. I mean, this is where a lot of people give Jimmy Carter praise, because following his presidency, he embarked on a human rights campaign where he focused on humanitarian issues and bettering the lives of individuals here in the United States, but also around the world. And I think that that's the lasting impact of his legacy, that despite his failures as a president, he was someone that never put himself first. He put other people first. He was someone that actually had a genuine care. He was a good and decent human being, and he would promote American values around the world. And I think that that's an important takeaway, that despite your failures, you could always redeem yourself, that 4 years in political office isn't going to define a lifetime of work.
And how does his time in office influence the years that follows, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think as a political scientist, you look at every administration differently. And I think you have to look at Jimmy Carter and understand that when you're president of the United States, it's a unique position that you're in, and it's a learning experience throughout the 4-year term that he served. And I think he took some of the lessons he learned as president and applied them to his personal life when he went on the human rights campaigns and looked for peace around the world. But all in all, I think no one could really say a bad thing about Jimmy Carter, as far as he never put himself first. He didn't have ambitions of power. He didn't enrich himself and his family while he was in political office and when he left political office. And he was a good husband, a good father. And I think that's the most important takeaway.
And what about his leadership style in the grand scheme of presidents in the United States? How does it compare?
I think that was part of Jimmy Carter's problem. He wasn't necessarily a leader. He didn't communicate well with the American public, and he didn't know how to really build the relationships. I mean, when you look at the world, when you look at China and Russia, the Iran, you're dealing with leaders that are going to put their nations first, are looking out for their own interests, where Jimmy Carter took a hands-off approach. And I think that's part of the problem. He didn't have a good relationship with key congressional figures to push an agenda forward. And his leadership style was certainly weak compared to what we're going to see come January 20th.
All right, Nicholas Giordano, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
And now moving to Mexico, authorities have arrested 3 people in connection with the murder of a Mexican migrant agent. The incident comes just weeks before an anticipated crackdown on illegal immigration after President-elect Trump takes office. Investigators in Mexico confirmed the agent suffered a head injury and was found dead yesterday. 2 Venezuelan men and a Colombian national were detained as suspects. Mexican authorities said the agent was attacked at a checkpoint just across the border from El Paso, Texas, when he asked a number of foreign nationals for their IDs. The London Eye prepares its New Year fireworks blast. The enormous display is set to wow 100,000 revelers and will be marked by Big Ben's midnight chime.
As the clock ticks toward a new year, we hear from people on their biggest accomplishments in 2024, as well as their expectations for 2025. That's when we come back.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Dave's Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Dave's enzyme fermented coffee.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. and the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
Welcome back. As we bid farewell to 2024, what was your biggest accomplishment in the past year?
And what are you most excited about in 2025? NTD Sam Wong was out at the National Mall in DC to hear from people.
What was your biggest accomplishment in 2024?
I would say just personal growth and worrying about myself and not worried about what others have to think about me.
I'm probably practicing soccer and getting better at it.
Nice. And did you win any tournament?
Yeah, a good amount.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Biggest accomplishment, finished my second internship to graduate, and 2025, I'm looking forward to graduating.
Overcoming fear and learning how to be just more faithful and holding true to some of those things that I hold dear in my life.
The biggest accomplishment would probably be I live in a house with 11 housemates, and we've been getting along really well.
Getting this kid through high school, we're waiting for applications to come through. My second biggest accomplishment will be his accomplishment, getting him into college and hopefully a Mets World Series win.
I was working in a research lab and I got promoted, so I would say that. Thank you. So I would say that that's definitely my biggest accomplishment.
So what do you research on?
We do research on animal distribution in Chernobyl.
Another year with her, first of all.
Okay.
I'm in sports management at Carolina, and so this year I would say I did a good job at broadening my connections.
So coming up in 2025, what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, I have some things in mind of like businesses and things like that, and starting the projects and finishing the projects that I thought about, things like that.
I'm hopefully doing an internship with the National Science Foundation.
More sports, more tournaments, more Gaelic football, more soccer.
More victories too, right?
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to graduating in 2025 and then getting first job in industry, traveling, seeing the world.
A potential publication. We'll see how that works out, but I would say that. I'm unsure if that'll happen, but that would be cool. Just doing more school stuff. I love school.
For the coming year would be seeing which organizations I land at for sports.
I'm looking forward to him choosing a school, figuring out where he's going to go. Positive changes. I think we could all use some great change in the country.
You know, as a family, we have a lot of fun events coming up, and so I think I can look at the temporary and enjoy, whether it be marriages, things of that nature coming up. But I think for me, it's just looking forward for opportunities to embrace the world around me and to connect with people and to help others feel the peace and joy that I feel within myself.
Wow, all these good things.
In light of that, can we talk about what your accomplishments were?
My accomplishments? I think every year it's like I would go with the first thing I heard there, which is a lot of self-growth, right? And maybe without wanting to go into too much detail, taking big steps and just being bold in my life and making a change when I see and not being held back by fear.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, speaking of big steps, I don't think there was one single big step for me in this past year, 2024. I would more classifying my accomplishments as, little steps, a gradual improvement that is not one single big earth-shattering event or improvement. It's more of these like little steps that accumulate into something that is not noticeable through the process, but looking back, you can see the improvement.
And that's sometimes the hardest ones, right? Because it takes a lot of work and effort to actually reach it. So yeah, congratulations on that.
Yeah.
We're moving on. A new year means making new resolutions as well. And as we wrap up the holiday season, you may feel like you have a debt hangover from all the spending.
A financial expert explains how to boost your savings in 2025. Let's take a look.
As we turn the page on a new year, financial experts say now is a great time to reevaluate your budget and add more money to your savings.
Create a budget, to review a budget, and to adjust the budget accordingly.
Mark Hamrick with Bankrate says the first step is to separate spending by want and need. Create a spreadsheet and calculate all housing expenses, whether that's a mortgage, rent, property taxes, and home insurance, utilities, food expenses, car payments, and phone, internet, cable costs. Experts recommend having 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in a savings account. But in a recent Bankrate survey, 56% of Americans say they do not have enough emergency savings to cover 3 months worth of expenses. And over a third of people say they have more credit card debt than emergency savings. Hamrick says if you do have debt, paying it off is crucial.
We just got through the holiday spending season, and many people will be experiencing a New Year's debt hangover at a time when credit card interest rates remain close to record highs.
Hamrick suggests putting money into a high-yield savings account, which means you'll be making higher interest on that money.
You need to shop around for the best rate so that, you're really optimizing how you're putting the money into this account.
You can also look into a CD account.
And I got a tip for you too in terms of financial wellness. So if you ever want to buy something, just wait maybe like a week or two before going for that purchase, just to make sure that you actually need this thing that you're aiming to buy. In most cases, if you wait a couple of weeks, you find out you can really go without it.
I actually totally agree. Sometimes I tend to do that, to just make another round in the store or just leave it in the cart. Good tip, by the way, to separate want and need. And one more thing that probably a lot of people want but don't necessarily need is space travel. So where can space travel reach in 2025?
Private companies are pushing space exploration into the next phase, and those less ambitious can still look into the sky and see some magic.
Commercial space companies are set for more missions to space, and they hope to reach the moon for deeper study into its surface.
We have 2 more companies going back to the moon. One company from Japan who gave it a shot a couple years ago is ready for try 2. The first shot didn't go too well, crash landed, and didn't do any work. It was just, I'm sorry to say, it was a failure. But the company is determined to try again, so they'll be launching to the moon at the beginning of 2025, hopefully. At the same time, the Houston company that had a pretty successful landing on the moon in 2024 is going for number 2 in 2025. And they're going to try to land near the south pole of the moon, and they're going to have a NASA drill on board that's going to drill into the surface near the south pole, and hopefully if there's ice near the surface, they can analyze to see the ice.
SpaceX is also set for bigger achievements in its collaboration with NASA. The planned launch of NASA's Artemis II crewed flight around the moon has been pushed from 2025 to 2026. But the Artemis program still remains pivotal in preparing for a sustainable human presence on the moon. SpaceX's Polaris Dawn program is aiming for more missions to push the boundaries of human spaceflight. It wants to develop the technologies needed for extended space travel and space habitation. Jared Isaacman is the founder of a credit card processing company. He was the mission commander for Polaris Dawn this year and recently nominated by President-elect Trump to lead NASA.
The riskiest part of it is that you threw away your atmosphere and then you have to rebuild it after the mission. There is no airlock. I think, if there's micrometeorite contact, then it was one hell of an unlucky day. I think really, from our perspective, there's been 2 years of preparation going into this. The majority of that time focused on this operation. So SpaceX does not take this lightly. They know they need EVA capability, the knowledge of the operations and the suit in order to fulfill their long-term dream of potentially populating another planet someday.
And astronauts on the International Space Station will continue conducting spacewalks and experiments in microgravity. They could tell us more about the effect of long-term space travel on the human body. But besides space travel and moon exploration, those who remain on Earth also have some things to look forward to. They can keep their feet on the ground, but look up into space and see something special.
No total solar eclipses in 2025. However, there will be 2 total lunar eclipses, which is the bites being taken out of the moon instead of the sun, right? And one is in March and one is in September. Different parts of the world for each, so everybody's going to get an eyeful one way or another. The Americas will have more of the March eclipse viewing, whereas Asia and that part of the world will be in September.
Overall, 2025 is set to be a year of new milestones in space.
You know, Musk has said that he wants to colonize Mars. In light of this story talking about space travel, he could potentially send 100 passengers to the planet every 2 years, and there will be like living habitats as well. What do you think?
I don't know. I did hear, I don't know if it was him who said it or somebody else, but I did hear someone say that it might be necessary for the survival of humankind.
Well, I've seen enough like sci-fi movies to make me feel like it's not a good idea. I mean, I'm not an expert, of course, but all these sci-fi movies, for example, Alien, right? Space travel.
Let
just
that
makes
be
me
a
feel
lesson.
like not a good idea.
Yeah, no, for sure. It is very scary because you don't know what's out there. And I don't think anybody knows what is out there, to be honest.
And besides aliens, I mean, anything could go, what if something goes wrong with the spacecraft or the living habitat on Mars?
Exactly.
What if you run out of oxygen, food? I mean, there's so many factors that...
So many points of failure.
Exactly.
Now, offering panoramic views of the British capital, we're coming back to Earth. The London Eye has been at the center of the city's New Year's Eve fireworks display for decades.
2025 will mark the 25th anniversary since the iconic Ferris wheel was built, and it's expecting to celebrate the new year with a massive crowd of revelers. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson has more from London.
As the UK welcomes the arrival of 2025 and the beginning of the second quarter of this century, Big Ben will chime and herald the start of the new year. Some 100,000 people will gather here to watch an enormous firework display set against the backdrop of the London Eye. The London Eye is the capital's iconic observation wheel. Final preparations are underway today. In the afternoon, the rigging of lighting and fireworks on the big wheel will be completed. Millions of people around the world will watch the annual celebration. This year is special as the world enters a quarter of a century since the new millennium.
The London Eye has actually been celebrating New Year's Eve properly since 1999. It was actually just before we opened. We didn't open until March of 2000. So that's what makes this one even more special for us this year. It's actually our 25th anniversary.
The dazzling display of fireworks will last 12 minutes. It is one of the largest annual firework displays in Europe.
There's at least 12,000 fireworks. We have over 400 lights on the wheel, so it's going to be yet another spectacular show. I think everyone agrees that every year it just gets better and better. We're expecting more of the same this year, and we just can't wait to bring it on.
A crew of 75 firework, sound, lighting and drone technicians have worked from December 27th to put on the show. It is an attraction for many visitors coming to London during the festive period. Director of Tourism Tracy Halliwell says they won't know precise numbers until after the event.
So visitor numbers we won't know until after the event. What we do know is that there's been about a 54% increase on flight bookings for that New Year's Eve week from the 28th of December. So we are expecting London to be really busy. The hotels are generally very full.
The banks of the Thames will be filled with throngs of revellers excited to ring in the new year together. Are you going to be watching the fireworks?
I sure am, yes.
Are you looking forward to them?
Yeah, I'm beside myself really. Yeah. I'm planning just to go to a pub and watch it from there.
Oh, we can't wait. Can't wait. I always come every year to watch it and it's fantastic.
Others in London have wishes for the new year.
I hope that, all the wars in the world stop, any time during the coming year. And I wish myself a successful career.
I'm actually doing a working holiday in France, Paris, so I'm hoping to just improve my French more.
My main hope this year is that by the grace of God, I remain faithful to Jesus.
You know, a lot of improvement in the areas where we slacked in 2024, and do the best we can to make, you know, life a little more comfortable for us, ourselves, for our families, and by extension, our nation.
Messages of hope for the coming year. Malcolm Hudson in London for NTD News.
You want to know how I'm celebrating New Year's and New Year's Eve?
Tell me.
I'm going to go to bed at 9:30 and get a really good night's sleep and wake up really refreshed in the morning. That's a perfect night for me.
That's a perfect time
Even on New Year's Eve.
I know, right? What a better way to start the next day then, and with a good mood.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, I'm not really a big fan of crowds. So more likely than not, I'm not going to be heading to Times Square to watch the ball drop. I'm not even going to watch it on TV. I'm just going to sleep and be really happy in the morning.
Yeah, and to be honest, with our schedule, maybe we could celebrate vicariously watching TV, watching the London New Year's celebration. That would be more our time schedule. But you know what? I'm still excited to spend also a good night's sleep, but also to celebrate with family a little bit.
You know, I can't even remember the last time I actually stayed up for New Year's Eve to count down into the new year. Not even like going out, just staying up to count down. I don't even remember the last time I did that.
That's a good question. I actually can't either, but that might just be my memory of a goldfish. That might just be me. All right. On that note, I hope you guys celebrate exactly the way you want to and have a great time. We're wrapping up our show right here, but be sure to stay tuned for NTD News Today at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. That's still coming up.
And thank you for watching. I'm Don Ma.
And I'm Evelyn Lee. Happy New Year again.
See you next year.
我们师傅讲过，过去武术的身法，你上阵的，你要是身法你保持好了，你就失去了生命。
Are today's mainstream martial arts not traditional martial arts?
现在有些人他学说传统武术，他尤其是西方人，他不懂。为什么我们要举行大赛呢？因为新疆人他就是要提倡传统武术，复兴中华5000年的传统文化。传统武术，真正的传统武术是讲武德的。我相信有一点。 就是守住武德，就有人教。
As the universe nears the end of its cycle of creation and destruction,